Verse Omagyanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri-Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri-Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sachivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurkashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarurvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Studying Sri Ishopanishad, and we'll be beginning with a new mantra today, mantra 4. If time permits, we'll also do mantra 5. Mhm. So it's a beginning of a new section actually, where we talk about the perception of someone who is situated in Ishavasya consciousness. When one starts acting in Ishavasya consciousness, which means one starts seeing that Krishna is the controller of everything, Krishna is the owner of everything, Krishna is present in everything, then because of that consciousness, a person develops a certain kind of vision. You see, it's a very simple thing which even people who are materialistic thinkers, they understand that the way you perceive this world, it's all a matter of what is your consciousness. Like how your consciousness tells you how the world is. Your consciousness gives you a picture of the world. That's how you see the world. That's how you see everything. And the way you see things, that's how you experience things. Right? So when one starts working this Ishavasya principle, then one is able to see those truths which a person not working in this principle cannot see. Hmm. Fine. So that is explained here. What is the vision of such people? How do they see the Supreme Lord, uh, the functioning of the Supreme Lord? So mantra 4, Lord's inconceivable nature. Uh, Mantra 4 explains that the Supreme Absolute is inconceivable to our normal intelligence. And only when we align ourselves to His will do we begin to understand Him by His mercy. So He is Achintya uh, for our intelligence. And only when we align ourselves to His will, we get His mercy. And then when we get His mercy, then because of his own compassion upon us, mercy upon us, we are able to um, understand him. We are able to know him. Fine. Uh, Anejad ekam manaso javiyo naina deva apnuvan purvamarshat tadhavato anyan atyeti tishtat tasminnapo matarishva dadhati. अनेचदेकं मनसो जवीयो नैन देवाप्नुवन् पूर्वमर्षत् तद्धावतो अन्यानतीति तिष्ठत् तस्मिन्नपो मातरिश्वा ददाति. So the translation of this mantra is, although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. So here is a contradiction. What is a contradiction? Fixed in one place and yet swifter than the mind.
Running.
Second, the powerful demigods cannot approach him. Uh, Although in one place, he controls those who supply the air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence. Hmm. Fine. So, this translation, what all principles does it establish? One principle that the Lord is uh, supreme, He is beyond everyone, right? Uh, he is situated in his abode, but from there he's controlling everything, right? Even the powerful demigods cannot approach him. What can be the different meanings of this line? One meaning can be they cannot understand it. Even the powerful demigods cannot understand him. Approach him means one is physically approaching, and another is approaching through knowledge or understanding. So cannot approach him even through knowledge, intellect. Mm. Fine. So in the purport now, Prabhupada explains how actually the Supreme Lord is inconceivable. Right? There are 3 points explained in the purport, and that's what we see in the PPT highlighted here. First, fixed yet swifter than the mind. Mm. Second, even powerful demigods cannot approach him. Third, he controls all and surpasses all. Fine. Mhm. So we'll read the purport. Uh, let's read first paragraph. Mhm. Someone please volunteer to read. Neha Matasha.
Hare Krishna. Purport. Through mental speculation, even the greatest philosopher cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. He can be known only by his devotees through his mercy. In the Brahma Samhita 5.34, it is stated that even if a non devotee philosopher travels through space at the speed of the wind or the mind for hundreds of millions of years, he will still find that the absolute truth is far, far away from him. The Brahma Samhita 5.37 further describes that the absolute personality of Godhead has his transcendental abode known as Goloka, where he remains and engages in his pastimes. Yet, by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy. In the Vishnu Puran, his potencies are compared to the heat and light that emanate from a fire. Although situated in one place, a fire can distribute its light and heat for some distance. Similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead, although fixed in his transcendental abode, can diffuse his different energies everywhere. Shall I continue? Although his energies are innumerable, they can be divided into three principal categories: the internal potency, the marginal potency, and the external potency. There are hundreds and millions of subheadings to each of these categories. The dominating demigods who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain are all classified within the marginal potency of the absolute person. Lesser living beings, including humans, also belong to the Lord's marginal potency. The material world is the creation of the Lord's external potency, and the spiritual sky, where the kingdom of God is situated, is the manifestation of his internal potency. Thus, the different energies of the Lord are present everywhere. Although the Lord and his energies are non different, one should not mistake these energies for the supreme truth. Nor should one wrongly consider that the Supreme Lord is distributed everywhere impersonally, or that he loses his personal existence. Men are accustomed to reaching conclusions according to their capacity for understanding, but the Supreme Lord is not subject to our limited capacity for understanding. It is for this reason that the Upanishads warn us that no one can approach the Lord by his own limited potency.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Thank you, Professor.
Hmm.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, please, can you please clear those like internal potencies means the three that Haladni, Shakti, Samvit, and Sandhini. Then marginal potency, Jivana. Then external potency, one is Maya, like Maya. Then are all the three present there also? Haladni, Samvit, and Sandhini?
So when it comes to Maya, then Haladini, Samvit, and Sandhini has become Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Right. Hmm. So the Lord is fixed in his abode, but swifter than the mind, and can overcome all others running. So Vedanta Deshika, one of the Sri Vaishnavacharyas, he says, how can the Lord overcome everyone else running? Because everyone has to run to reach a particular place. But since the Lord is at every place, he doesn't have to run to reach there, isn't it? If someone is trying to catch the Lord, or someone is, let's say, chasing the Lord, or whatever, so the Lord is everywhere. So he doesn't have to run to reach to a certain place. Others have to run to reach to a certain place. Therefore, he can overcome everyone else. He's present everywhere, right? He's all pervading. And then uh, um, it's mentioned here that Tasmin apo matarishva dadhati. Uh, Remaining in one place in him, what happens? Mm, he controls everything, right? He controls everything. So you see, very interesting explanation is given by Baldev Vidya Bhushan. Uh, how the Lord controls everything. He says, let's take the example of rain. Fine. Uh, uh, rain, rain means water. Now we know the element of water is bulkier or more gross than air, isn't it? For example, earth can stop water from falling down, but air cannot stop water from falling down because water is more gross than air, isn't it correct? Uh, Now, though water is more gross than air, the power of air is so much that air can stop water from falling. How? It carries water in the form of clouds, isn't it correct? So that's how he's saying is that the Lord is so powerful that he controls everything, he contains everything, and he carries everything, though is not visible in a very subtle manner, just like the air carries the clouds, the sun, the constellations, the planets, the stars, but one cannot see that air in a very sukshma or subtle way. So the Lord is carrying everything, controlling everything in a very subtle manner, right? That's his excellence, right? That's his power. Fine. So here, let's continue from here, 10.2 in the Bhagavad Gita. Ashoka Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Although his energies are innumerable, they can be divided into three principal categories. the internal potency, the marginal potency, and the external potency. There are hundreds and billions of subheadings to each of these categories. The dominating demigods, who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain, are all classified within the marginal potency of the absolute person. Lesser living beings, including humans, also belong to the Lord's marginal potency. The material world is the creation of the Lord's external potency, and the spiritual sky, where the kingdom of God is situated, is the manifestation of his internal potency. Thus, the different energies of the Lord are present everywhere. Although the Lord and his energies are non-different, one should not mistake these energies for the supreme truth. Nor should one wrongly consider that the Supreme Lord is distributed everywhere impersonally, or that he loses his personal existence. Men are accustomed to reach conclusions according to their capacity for understanding, but the Supreme Lord is not subject to our limited capacity for understanding. It is for this reason that the Upanishads warn us that no one can approach the Lord by his own limited potency. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the Lord says that not even the great rishis and suras can know him, and what to speak of the asuras, for whom there is no question of understanding the ways of the Lord. This fourth mantra of Shri Ishopanishad very clearly suggests that the absolute truth is ultimately the absolute person. Otherwise, there would have been no need to mention so many details in support of his personal features. Although the individual parts and parcels of the Lord's potencies have all the symptoms of the Lord himself, they have limited spheres of activity and are therefore all limited. The parts and parcels are never equal to the whole, therefore, they cannot appreciate the Lord's full potency. Under the influence of material nature, foolish and ignorant living beings who are but parts and parcels of the Lord try to conjecture about the Lord's transcendental position. Shri Ishopanishad warns of the futility of trying to establish the identity of the Lord through mental speculation. One should try to learn of the transcendence from the Lord himself, the supreme source of the Vedas, for the Lord alone has full knowledge of the transcendence.
Thank
Every
you.
part of Hare.
Um, so it is pretty simple to understand. Uh, Prabhupada is again here talking about the difference between the Lord and the living entity, um, how the Lord is transcendental and the living entity is minute. Therefore, the living entity should not try to understand the Lord through mental speculation. Hmm. Rather, one should approach the Lord through the knowledge given in the Vedas. Hmm. Even the great rishis cannot understand it, and demigods also. So, how can we understand, right? Hmm. Then, next to that discussion, I'll pray, Prabhu.
Every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to the Lord's will. When the part and parcel living entity forgets his particular activities under the Lord's will, he is considered to be in Maya illusion. Thus, from the very beginning, Sri Ishopanishad warns us to be very careful to play the part designated to us by the Lord. This does not mean that the individual soul has no initiative of his own, but because, on, because he is part and parcel of Lord, he must partake for the initiative of the Lord as well. When a person properly utilize his initiative or active nature with intelligence, understanding that everything is the Lord's potency, he can revive his original consciousness, which has lost due to association with Maya, the external energy. All power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, each particular power must be utilized to execute the will of the Lord, not and not otherwise. The Lord can known by one who has adopted such a submissive service attitude. Perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord in his in all his features, knowing his potencies and knowing how these potencies work by his will. These matters are described by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Upanishad.
Yes. So what we understood here, first, the Lord is fixed in his abode. The name of that is Golok Vrindavan, and his activity is he engages in his pastimes. He is swifter than the mind. How? Because he's all pervading by inconceivable potencies. So we heard about the potencies of the Lord. Principal three categories: internal, marginal, external. You know this now, right? Internal potency has Samvit, Sandhini, Haladini. The spiritual world is manifestation of this particular internal potency. This internal is also known as what? Chitta Shakti, correct? And then there is marginal known as Jiva Shakti, which manifests the demigods, the humans, other living entities. And then extra, which is Maya Shakti, which has Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. Right? So Sattva, it corresponds to Sandhini. Rajas is corresponds to Haladini. And Tamas, it corresponds to Sambit. Mm. So the material world is creation of this potential, the material potential. Fine. Because he is swifter than the mind, is beyond mental speculation. He remains far, far away. Even the demigods cannot approach him. So that means he can be known only by his devotees, by his mercy. Right? That's what is explained. Then next, even powerful demigods cannot approach him, which means great rishis and suras cannot know. Why they cannot know? Because the Lord is their origin and they are limited in nature. No one can know him fully. Why? Because he is unlimited. How to know transcendence? Either from the Lord himself through the Vedas and only when he reveals himself by his mercy. Right. The last one, it controls and surpasses all. So what do you do if you want to realize him? You play your part, designated for us by the Supreme Lord. As Prabhupada mentions in the purport, every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to his will. So that's how you play your part. And how do you do that? In the Isha Vasya consciousness. The conception that everything belongs to the Lord, controlled by the Lord, owned by the Lord. All power comes from him. Even the power to act comes from. So each power must be utilized to execute his will. And that's how you develop perfect knowledge. What is perfect knowledge? Knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies, and knowing how all these potencies work. That's complete knowledge. Okay. That is knowing everything. So this is how the entire purport is summarized here through these charts. Any questions? No? So it's a simple mantra. Now
Hare Krishna
we go to
Prabhuji.
the next one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, small clarification just. Uh,
Yeah.
I just like wanted to understand because here is mentioned that uh, great rishis and suras cannot know the God. So for the devotional services, is it how much it is important that we should know the Lord fully, or can with our tiny mind we can understand the Lord fully?
No, we cannot. So we cannot understand the Lord fully. No one can understand the Lord fully. We can only understand the Lord to some extent. That also by the mercy of the Lord. Just like I've already explained this before. Can any bird cross the limit of the sky? No. The bird may fly very high in the sky, but the bird cannot cross the limit of the sky. So similarly, different people will understand Krishna to different levels, just like different birds will fly at different heights. But like no bird can cross the limit of the sky, no one can understand Krishna completely. Hmm.
But Prabhuji, then one shloka of Bhagavad Gita, how to understand where Lord says that uh, my devotees knows me in tattva, like
There is no problem in knowing the Lord in Tattva. One will understand the Tattva of the Lord, that's fine. But then understanding the Tattva means what? You understand the principles. However, understanding the Tattva doesn't mean that you understand every single thing about the Supreme Lord. Some things we cannot understand how he works, how he functions. Cannot understand. Like, for example, when I say the Lord knows everything about me, which means what? He knows every moment what I'm thinking also. Correct? Right? But can I or you or anyone else know every moment what Krishna is thinking? So if I can't know that, how do I understand Krishna completely? I don't, isn't it? So Tattvataha, yes, but then what is the ichha of Krishna? What does Krishna want? What is Krishna's rasa with every single devotee and all that? Means our consciousness is not that, you know, expanded that we can know everything about Krishna, isn't it? Like for example, at some moment Krishna is playing with his cowherd friends. So those cowherd friends are so immersed in the pastime with Krishna. At that moment, do those cowherd friends feel what is Krishna doing in some other universe? Or what is Krishna doing, what pastime Krishna is doing in another avatar? Or what Krishna's two-handed, four-handed form Vishnu is doing at that moment? They can't know all that. So if they can't know all that, how do they know Krishna completely? Isn't it? Yeah. So the point is, Krishna is unlimited, Ananta, and the consciousness of the jiva is limited. So how can the limited jiva understand the complete Lord Ananta? So completely not possible. Anything else? We humans, by Lord's mercy, can know him. And why can the demigods not know him? They can also know him. When it says that the demigods do not know him, doesn't mean to say that the demigods cannot know him, or all the demigods do not know him. What it means to say is that even if you become as powerful as a demigod and you are not a devotee, you cannot know him.
Prabhuji, can somebody become demigod without bhakti or being a devotee?
Yeah, why not? One can be a very pious soul and one might have done a lot of punya karma and may have little acceptance of God, theism, or maybe a Mishra Bhakta, not a pure Bhakta, then one can know the Supreme Lord to some extent. Otherwise, one cannot
Okay.
understand. Only pure devotees of Krishna can understand Krishna completely, tattvataha, as mentioned, right? Other than that, no one is.
Prabhuji, in PPT, play your part. It was mentioned like, what is it designated for us by the Lord? So,
Yes.
does it mean that like for the jiva doing bhakti, it is being like this is the part? I would say this is the part which is being designated by the Lord for the jiva, or does it has any different meaning?
It has in general it has the meaning which you said. In specific, it has the meaning that the Lord has a particular task for each jiva to accomplish. So playing that part, like for Arjuna, he had a task. You should fight this battle, right? For Bhishma Pitama, he had a task that you fight on the side of the Kauravas. So like that, for every jiva who is assisting the Lord in his pastime or is doing something for the Lord, then the Lord has a specific task for the jiva to perform, isn't it? So in general, it is bhakti. But then as you start making progress, then the task becomes more specific. Just like to give a very rough example, uh, ISKCON is a big organization. So many people are connected to ISKCON. Let's say at present, Prabhupada was present on the planet. Let's say that Prabhupada is present on the planet. Fine. And he is guiding the entire society called ISKCON. So being present on the planet, he definitely wants to um, address to each and every member of ISKCON, or he has something for each and every member of the ISKCON. So he'll tell the members of ISKCON that you should all chant 16 rounds daily. Now that is a general instruction, general task given to all the members of ISKCON by Srila Prabhupada, correct? But then some of those members who become serious and sincere will also get those instructions which these other members will not get. Like you go to Mayapur and you open this temple, you go to Japan and you open that temple, you get me this much money, I want to build the temple in Vrindavan. Those tasks only some specific people are going to get, isn't it? Now, who is going to get those tasks? Those who are close to him or near him or those who can be trusted by him, right? Similarly, when we are beginning our Krishna consciousness or when we are in conditioned state, then we have a general task given to us by Krishna, perform devotional service. But then as we make progress, start making progress in our Krishna consciousness, then Krishna may have some specific tasks also. Just like for Arjuna, there is a specific task. For Bhishma Pitama, there is a specific task. For Srila Prabhupada, there is a specific task by Krishna. You go preach Krishna consciousness, right? So as you make progress, then there will be a specific task also. And another way of understanding that is if we follow the spiritual master who is purely representing Krishna, then the spiritual master may also give us a specific task. So we should understand that this is the seva given to me by Krishna. Krishna wants me to do this. Okay? Hmm. Next. Next mantra. Mantra 5. Tad ejati tannaijati tad dure tad vandike tadantarasya sarvasya tado sarvasyasya bhayataha. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. Again, these are contradicting statements, right? Then he is far away, but is very near as well. Hmm? He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. Why are these statements given here? Just to show us that the Lord is different from material substance. Material substance do not have these qualities. And because the Lord is beyond matter, he has qualities which matter does not have, contradicting qualities. Hmm. Fine. So tad ejati, tanyajati, he is this, he is not this, like that. Tad dure, tad vandike. So Prabhupada will explain how the Lord is far, how the Lord is near, how he walks, how he doesn't walk, right? And how are these contradicting qualities becoming possible in the Supreme Lord? Because of his inconceivable potencies. That makes the contradictory qualities possible in him. Mm. So mantra 5, it talks about the Lord's inconceivable nature. So 3 paradoxical qualities are mentioned. Walks doesn't walk. Hmm. This is this is let's look at the purport first, then we'll discuss. Yes, Anjali Mataji, please read the paragraph first. First and second paragraph.
Pranam. Um, Though material speculations, even the
No.
sorry, Prabhuji, sorry.
Mantra 5,
Here
please.
is a Okay, fine. Prabhuji, I read from the screen. Na. Here is a description of some of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities executed by his inconceivable potencies. The contradictions given here prove the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say that he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his inconceivable power. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such contradictions, and therefore we conceive of the Lord in the term of our limited powers of understanding. For example, the impersonalist philosophers of the Mayavad school accept the Lord impersonal activities and reject his personal features. But the members of the Bhagavata school, adopting the perfect conception of the Lord, accept his inconceivable potencies and thus understand that he is both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavatas know that without inconceivable potencies, there can be no meaning of the word Supreme Lord. We should not take it for granted that because we cannot see God with our eyes, the Lord has no personal existence. Shri Ishopanishad refutes this argument by declaring that the Lord is far away but very near also. The abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even this material sky. If the material sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it? That the spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material universe is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15.6. But despite the Lord being so far, he can at once, within less than a second, descends before us with a speed swifter than that of the mind or the wind. He can also run so swiftly that no one can surpass him. This has already been described in the previous mantra. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Next two paragraphs on Upanishad.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Yet, when the personality of Godhead comes before us, we neglect him. Such foolish negligence is condemned by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11, where he says that the foolish deride him, considering him a mortal being. He is not a mortal being, nor does he come before us with the body produced of material nature. There are many so-called scholars who contend that the Lord descends in a body made of matter, just like an ordinary living being. Not knowing his inconceivable power, such foolish men place the Lord on an equal level with ordinary men. Because he is full of inconceivable potencies, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and he can convert his different potencies according to his own will. Non believers argue that the Lord cannot incarnate himself at all, or that if he does, he descends in a form of material nature. These arguments are nullified if we accept the existence of the Lord inconceivable potencies. Then we will understand that even if the Lord appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for him to convert this energy into spiritual energy. Since the source of energies is one and the same, the energies can be utilized according to the will of their source. For example, the Lord can appear in the form of the Arch Vigraha, a deity supposedly made up of earth, stone, or wood. Deity forms, although engraved from wood, stone, or other matter, are not idols, as the iconoclast contend.
Next paragraph, someone else read this. Shamala Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhu. In our present state of imperfect material existence, we cannot see the Supreme Lord due to imperfect vision. Yet those devotees who want to see him by means of material vision are favored by the Lord, who appears in a so-called material form to accept his devotees' service. One should not think that such devotees who are in the lowest stage of devotional service are worshipping an ideal. They are factually worshipping the Lord, who has agreed to appear before them in an approachable way. Nor is the Acha form fashioned according to the whims of the worshipper. This form is eternally existent with all perishable paripalania. This can be actually felt by a sincere devotee, but not by an atheist. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, the Lord says that how he treats his devotee depends on the devotee's degree of surrender. The Lord reserves the right not to reveal himself to anyone and everyone, but to show himself only to those souls who surrender unto him. Thus, for the surrendered souls, he is always within reach, whereas for the unsurrendered soul, he is far, far away and cannot be approached. In this connection, two words the revealed scriptures often apply to the Lord: Saguna with qualities and Nirguna without qualities are very important. The word Saguna does not imply that when the Lord appears with perceivable qualities, he must take on a material form and be subject to the laws of material nature. For him, there is no difference between the material and spiritual energies because he is the source of all energies. As the controller of all energies, he cannot at any time be under their influence as we are. The material energy works according to his direction. Therefore, he can use that energy for his purposes without ever being influenced by any of the qualities of that energy. In this sense, he is nirguna, without qualities. Nor does not the Lord become a formless entity at any time. For ultimately, he is the eternal form, the primeval Lord. His impersonal accept or Brahman effulgence is but the glow of his personal rays, just as the sun's rays are the glow of the sun god. Can I continue, Prabhu?
Someone else, no? Someone else. Yeah. Two more paragraphs. Ashok Prabhuji, please continue.
When the child saint Prahlad Maharaj was in the presence of his atheist father, his father asked him, "Where is your God?" When Prahlad replied that God resides everywhere, the father angrily asked whether his God was within one of the pillars of the palace, and the child said yes. At once the atheist king shattered the pillar in front of him to pieces, and the Lord instantly appeared as Narsimha, the half man, half lion incarnation, and killed the atheist king. Thus, the Lord is within everything, and he creates everything by his different energies. Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. Lord Narsim appeared from within the pillar not by the order of the atheist king, but by the wish of his devotee Prahlad. An atheist cannot order the Lord to appear, but the Lord will appear anywhere and everywhere to show mercy to his devotee. The Bhagavad Gita 4.8 similarly states that the Lord appears in order to vanquish non believers and protect believers. Of course, the Lord has sufficient energies and agents who can vanquish atheists, but it pleases him to personally favor a devotee. Therefore, he descends as an incarnation. Actually, he descends only to favor his devotees and not for any other purpose. In the Brahm Samhita 5.35, it is said that Govinda, the primeval Lord, enters everything by his plenary portion. He enters the universe as well as all the atoms of the universe. He is outside in his Virat form and he is within everything as Antaryami. As Antaryami, he witnesses everything that is going on and he awards us the results of our actions as Karamfala. We ourselves may forget that we have done in the what we have done in the previous lives, but because the Lord witnesses our actions, the results of our actions are always there, and we have to undergo the actions nonetheless. The fact is that there is nothing but God within and without. Everything is a manifestation of his different energies, like the heat and light emanating from a fire, and in this way, there is a oneness among his diverse energies. Although there is oneness, however, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys unlimitedly all the pleasures enjoyed minutely by the tiny part and parcel living entities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So here, through contradiction, Krishna's unique nature has been established. How Krishna is simultaneously one and different from everything, right? Um, see, Prabhupada says in one of the purports in Bhakti-sastri Bhagavatam that those who cannot grasp the simultaneous oneness and difference of the Lord, uh, that person should focus on some aspect of material creation, like a wood or tree and a mountain or something, and then meditate on that object's connection to the Supreme Lord. So, by meditating like that, the presence of the Supreme Lord will be felt in everything. Then what happens is a person develops a consciousness known as universal consciousness, where you see everything as a part of the body of the Supreme Lord. And seeing as a part of the body of the Supreme Lord, then you don't uh, perform any activity which will be considered wrong, because you are, for you, every person, everything has the Supreme Lord dwelling in them. So you become extra cautious, right? That is the way people who are thinkers think and come to the conclusion. Mhm. So, Prabhupada in the Prabhupada explained all these points. We'll look at each one of them. He walks, he does not walk. So then Prabhupada explains, is God illogical? So ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his inconceivable power. Right? Therefore, Jiva Goswami explains in one of the Sandarbhas, he says, God is not illogical, but God is translogical, which means beyond mundane logic. Logic cannot touch the subject matter of God, right? Because logic cannot prove God exists. At the same time, logic can also not disprove that God exists, isn't it? Both ways. And logic can only help us understand some subject matter to a certain extent, but not fully understand, isn't it? Like, for example, um, someone is sleeping. So it's a daytime and that person is sleeping and that person is not waking up for many hours. So through logic, you can understand that person may be sick. But then through logic, you cannot understand what is the sickness of that person, isn't it? Right? So logic can only tell certain things, not everything. And why? Because it doesn't help us experience the reality. That's the problem with logic, isn't it? Therefore, interestingly, you cannot understand people's feelings or emotions through logic, mental state, because you can't experience it. You can't understand through logic. You cannot experience, and therefore you cannot understand what the other person is going through, what is in the mind of that person, how the other person is feeling. That you understand through logic. Next, he is far away and he is very near. He is very far away from whom? From the non-devotees, and is very near to the surrendered souls. So far away, Prabhupada says, he lives in the spiritual world performing leelas, various pastimes. In that way, he is far away, performing various pastimes, beyond the limits of the vast material sky. And therefore, he cannot be understood by the non-surrendered souls. He is very near. How? First, as the super soul, very near to us. He can, within a second, descend before us. For that, he quoted which story? Which pastime? Within a moment, he can come before us. He
Prahlad.
just Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu, Narsinga Avatar. right? Correct? Then he is very near in the form of the deity, Archa Vigraha. Regarding deity worship, and he's very near because he can be understood only by the surrendered souls. So regarding deity worship, someone may say, how can you accept the deity as a supreme lord? Is the deity form, which is the limited form, not limiting the Lord? Someone may say so. This is a very nice answer given by one of the Vaishnavacharyas. What does he say? He says, an elephant sits down to let the child pat it. Uh, Example is given in this way that the elephant is very tall and high when the elephant is standing. So if the child wants to sit on the elephant has to first sit, and then the child can sit on the elephant. If the elephant remains tall and high, the child cannot sit on the elephant, isn't it? So the example given is the elephant has to reduce its height, come to a lower height for the child to fulfill his desire to sit on the elephant or to pat the elephant. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, who is actually unlimited or who has a transcendental form, he accepts a form of a deity which is very small and tiny, which is limited, just for us to get a chance to serve him. But that doesn't mean that because the Lord has taken a small form, the Lord has become small. The Lord has come in the form of a deity made of wood or anything else. So the Lord has become that. No? Only someone who is very ignorant, neophyte will speak like that or think like that. Like, for example, we know when the Muslims they invaded India, they destroyed the temples and they also destroyed the murtis. So when they destroyed the murtis, they would tell the Hindus, you see, we have destroyed your God. Now, why is your God not fighting back? Why the God is not protesting or killing us? So that is very low consciousness, thinking that if you can destroy the Murti, you can destroy the Supreme Lord. The Lord has just come in the form of Murti to accept our seva. That doesn't mean that you destroy the Lord by destroying the Murti. Isn't it? So he comes in that form to accept our seva. The Lord is omnipotent, but the deity cannot move a fly away from its face. So how is the deity non-different from the Lord? Now someone may say, the Lord is can do everything. So why can't the Lord protect himself? Or why can't the Lord take care of himself? You know, such silly questions one may ask. So the answer to that is, though the Lord is omnipotent, he has not manifested his deity form to show his omnipotence. He has manifested the deity form to accept seva, isn't it? That is the purpose of his that appearance. We know deity is avatar, known as Archa Vigraha avatar. So he has come in that avatar for the purpose of accepting seva from the devotees, not for the purpose of showing his omnipotence, his complete supreme power, his Vishwarupa and all that, right? So therefore the Lord is acting in that form. He is within the deity. He's present through the deity. In that way, is very near, very near. Fine. So there's explanation here of the deity form of the Supreme Lord. Very nicely explained. This is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this. Very interesting. So about Archa Vigraha. So he says there are three types of vision or three levels of seeing. One is known as Jadamaya vision, another is known as Manamaya vision, and the other is known as Chinmaya vision. Material vision, uh, then there is another material vision which is mental or more subtle, and there is Chinmaya, which is spiritual vision. So he says, if you see the deity through material vision, then the deity is just a statue, nothing more than a statue. That's called Jadamaya vision. And gross materialistic people, atheists, people belonging to other religions who do not understand the potency of deity, They see the deity as a statue. Therefore, they don't call the deity as deity, they call the deity as idol. IDOL, idol, right? That's a statue. And Manomaya vision is what? This is also a vision which a materialistic person will have. But this vision is may bring some feelings and emotions. Now, most of the sentimental devotees, they have this Manomaya vision. Manomaya vision. How? Uh, just to explain here, you see, let's try to understand. What is Manomaya? A symbolic representation of the absolute truth. Like I'll give you an example. The country is represented by a flag. Is the flag the country? No. But the flag is representing the country. So people who have emotions towards the country also develop emotions towards the flag, isn't it? So in India, you know this, not in India, I think in any country, this is the law. If you if you show disrespect to the flag, it is seen as disrespect to the nation, isn't it? And it becomes a punishable crime or offense. But then what is that flag? Flag is nothing. Nothing. Now, for example, if I burn the flag, will the country actually get affected? No, right? So this kind of vision is the flag and the country. Seeing the flag connected to the country, having feelings for the flag because the flag is connected to the country. This is called Manomaya vision, where there are certain emotions attached, right? It's a symbol. And it is which kind of symbolism? It is ascending symbolism. Why it is ascending? Because actually that object has got no connection with the real entity that it is representing. That's called ascending symbolism. For example, we have at present the flag of India, which is tricolors. And then there is a Ashoka Chakra, right? Let's say uh, after 1,000 years or 2,000 years or 4,000 years, the flag is changed. Why? Because the flag has got no connection with the country, isn't it? So it is ascending symbolism. Now there is something known as descending symbolism. What is that? There is a person, you took a picture of that person, a photograph. Fine. That photograph is representing the person. Now, that photograph is also not actually the person. If I destroy the photograph, I am not destroying the person, isn't it? I burn the photograph, I'm not burning the person. And that photograph also reminds me of that person. So if I have some feelings towards that person, I'll get those feelings when I look at the photograph. Hmm. But that photograph is descending symbolism because it has got connection to the person. It is that person's photograph. Correct. However, both these symbols are manomaya presentations of the reality. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the deity is not like that the deity looks like Krishna. Therefore, when I look at the deity, I think of Krishna. No, he says the deity is Krishna. So that is Chinmaya vision. The deity is Krishna, not representing Krishna. But we cannot see that because we don't have Chinmaya vision. One who develops that spiritual vision will be able to see the deity exactly as Krishna. And, and that happens when our consciousness becomes pure. So when our consciousness becomes pure, then the deity can also talk to us, right? The deity can also have that relationship with us. So therefore, the scriptures, sometimes, people quote this verse or quote this Sanskrit text. You might have heard, Tasya pratima na asti. In some scripture, it is said that the Lord does not have a pratima or image. Even in Bible, it says God doesn't have an image. Even in Quran, it says God doesn't have an image, right? And in Sanskrit also we have not the say pratima asti. Pratima means an image. So why the scriptures talks like that? The scriptures talk like that to tell us that God does not have a material image. God does not have a material image, but He does have a form. He does have uh, attributes or qualities, personal qualities. Fine. Okay. And then the last one, the Lord is inside everything and the Lord is outside everything. How is He inside everything? He's inside everything in the form of super soul. He's inside.
Prabhuji, can I ask a doubt about this Manomaya vision and Chinmaya vision?
Yes, Mother.
How they are different, Prabhuji? Because if someone does something to the deity also, it doesn't affect the supreme absolute truth.
No.
Just like
No, wait a second. The picture, the example that if I do something to the picture, it doesn't affect the person. That is just an example, limited example. It doesn't tell everything about Chinmaya vision. Uh, for example, let's take it this way. If I keep food in front of your picture, you will not have your hunger satisfied. But if you keep a plate of boga in front of Krishna's deity, Krishna will be satisfied. Right? So that's the difference between Krishna's deity and a person's picture. Mhm. So the picture is only a symbolic representation. A photograph is just a symbolic representation of the person, just like a flag is. But then the deity is not like that. The deity has the picture has a more greater connection than the flag. The flag is not at all connected to the country in that sense, right? A picture is somewhat connected to the person, but the deity is the supreme personality. Mm. The deity is the supreme personality. Okay, so that's how it is different. Chinmaya is different from Manomaya in many ways. Okay, what is the question next? Shri Prabhu. How do we answer such people who destroy the deity form and say we have destroyed your God? Well, if they say like that, do you think you can explain to them? Do they have the intelligence to understand? If one is or if one is speaking like that, that means that person has such a gross intelligence. So how can you explain to that supreme, to that person that you cannot destroy God? That is just basically an act like that is simply done to destroy someone's faith or to hurt someone's faith. To hurt someone's faith. That's all. Any other question, please, if you have? We are not going to detail of these subject matters because it's all covered in Bhagavad Gita, and there's not nothing new to discuss, right? So we will see in the later verses some new points will come, so we'll discuss. But I just want to keep the subject matter of Ishopanishad light because we have already covered these topics before so far. No other question, then we stop here for today. We'll continue with the next two verses in the class tomorrow. Just a question before we end the meeting. I'm taking this review from all the devotees who are attending online classes. Let me stop the